This is step one of the SAP meeting. It's really an introduction of the team, an introduction of the student, what their strengths are, and what the plan is for the meeting.
Brian and I have been gathering some information on John, one of the students that's really having a challenge. Today we have Jill King, who is our facilitator from the county. She's going to help us along with this process. So we started step one, just kind of finding out who John is. Brian and I have done some collaboration and working on that. So today we're just going to really start our student access plan and kind of develop a place to start, find out some of his strengths, some of his challenges, and we'll kind of go from there. All right?
Sounds good.
Oh, okay.
So why don't you guys introduce yourselves to me so I know who we're...
I am Brian. I'm John's case manager / RSP teacher.
Nice to meet you.
And I'm Laura. I'm the Tech Essentials teacher.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I'm Colleen. I'm his English teacher.
And I'm Cynthia, and I'm his math teacher.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, so we'll begin with the process. You guys all have kind of seen a blank of what the stages we're going to go through today in terms of developing a plan for John moving forward. But we're going to start out by looking at the positive qualities John brings to the learning situation. What are his strengths? What are those things that we can potentially build off of?
Cool.
So just feel free to jump in.
Well, I have to say, John is a great kid. He's got a great sense of humor. All the kids just really like him. I just think that's going to serve him well down the road.
And I'd say in my class, John's just a leader. He's very proficient with the technology, but beyond that, he likes to show kids the new things that he's learning. And he's exploring some basic coding on his own, and then he kind of sees himself as a computer science person, in the future.
Great. Those sound like some really great qualities with John. Sounds like he has some really good stuff to go forward. He is going to be a good learner. What would the team kind of describe as some of his barriers or challenges in his education?
Well, as you all know, John has a significant reading disability. We do continue to provide him with an intervention in reading fluency and work on comprehension strategies during his study skills time, but I worry that it's not enough because he's carrying a full load with high school classes, and he needs to keep on track for graduation. So I feel like we really do need to continue to focus on providing him with the accommodations he needs to get through the text-heavy content while learning what he needs to learn.
Okay. Well, and John's handwriting, it really gets in his way. This is a current sample, and you guys should check it out. These notes are taken during a class discussion. I'm not really sure how he reads them. It just really bogs him down. The other thing is his spelling. Sometimes he struggles so much with the spelling that he can't keep up with everything. So it's a real concern for me.
Legibility issues are also impacting his math. He just can't even read his own writing, like you said, and he, I have a hard time grading his work because I can't really tell what he's trying to say. He hides it as well as he can because he's terrified that his peers will see it and he'll be embarrassed by it, but, and I sometimes think that that's why he doesn't finish his work because he's so self-conscious.
Makes sense.
So that's a great summary of who John is and a great place for us to start some problem solving. All right, so we're going to focus in a little bit more specifically on some areas of need for John. I've reviewed the information that both Brian and Mo did in terms of looking at where he is and meeting the state standards, as well as they also identified from that activity some specific data collection to do, and I think you guys have all had a copy of those different pieces of data collection that they accomplished. So after reviewing it, it kind of stood out to me that we really have 5 areas that we're going to talk about. I did not include math because his issues with math seem to have more to do with the handwriting and legibility issues than really his ability to do math. So we're going to just run through those 5 that I have checked. And what I'd like you to do is just kind of help us frame a statement or two that really gives us what his biggest challenge is in that area. So let's start with reading and really talking about more the foundations of reading.
Well, when talking with Brian, it was really identified that he has some support for his comprehension and fluency in study skills. So those are kind of being addressed. Still an area of concern, but Brian's really working on that in his classroom at this time.
Okay. So that's really kind of something that's going to be mostly handled in the special
Correct.
education setting. Okay. So let's talk about comprehension. That's probably something that impacts you in other settings as well. So for reading comprehension, would everyone agree that his access, what I think I heard you say earlier was his access to grade level content is a big concern for all of you? You want to say a little bit more about that, anyone?
Yeah. Again, Brian and I looked at his progression. Is he working on those standards? And again, he is below standards in that area. So that's a huge area that he's not being able to really understand what it is he needs to read.
Right. And I think kind of one way to address that is just to give John access to digital print and websites or apps or extensions or whatever. We need to look at that. But I think that's something we should consider is giving him that grade level content in digital.
Great idea. Okay, so let's move on to writing mechanics. We've definitely heard concerns about John's handwriting, so, and especially in the context of note-taking. Is there anything beyond note-taking that we need to talk about?
Yes, definitely. I think we need to further that onto just any kind of worksheet that he's doing.
Okay. So not just longer material, even short
No,
written.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, especially in math, because I don't think he can follow along on the worksheets, and then he gets confused and I get confused. I can't follow him because of his legibility skills.
So the next area is writing, but more focused on his ability to compose or to complete some of those standards around composition. Would anyone, would you guys basically agree that that's an area of need for him as well, beyond just his legibility issues?
Again, Brian and I really identified that early, that was an area of concern, so we went ahead and did the writing protocol.
Oh, great.
And so that really helped us look both at his writing as well as his keyboarding. His writing came up to about 16 words per minute, so not bad. And his keyboarding was about 20, so it's nice to see that, again, his keyboarding is better than his handwriting, but again, still an area of concern when he has to do longer passages of writing.
Definitely. He's developed a great skill set for keyboarding, and I feel that that's a great advantage for him when he has to write those longer assignments like you just mentioned, the essays. He's a very quick keyboarder, but again, that spelling component is what really holds him back.
So I'm going to go ahead and also identify under writing language conventions, because he does have, it sounds like, some pretty significant spelling issues. I do want to just comment, whether we can improve his spelling skills at this point, may be questionable at his age, and he's had a lot of intervention around spelling, but we do need to focus on how we're going to help him accommodate for that and how we're going to enable him to move into adulthood being successful, even though his spelling skills are always going to be pretty much a big struggle for him. Mo, what do you think? I did check executive functioning. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yes, we really looked at, Brian and I again did the inventory. We brought John in and asked him his opinions too, which is important. But again, that whole organization, how does he initiate tasks, and how does he even remember that he has homework? How does he remember what steps are involved in assignments? So again, that kind of organization is a huge area of concern for him. Great.
Definitely. Several times this semester he has a Chromebook and he's forgotten to bring it to school, and if he doesn't bring it, then he can't complete his work. So I feel that that's a huge issue because he can't complete his work, so I think that we should definitely make a note of that.
Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of things to consider, and we'll really need to focus on some things before we get to the point in our conversation about what we're going to try. We could obviously do a lot for John, but I think it's really important to make a plan today that's doable, and we're going to need to make some choices about what's going to make the most difference for him.